Hello, everybody.
Hey.
Hey. Okay, welcome to this special live. Woo! This is our first live. Yes,
feels different.
ComX show. Yes, we're live, and this one's a special one because I'm going to interview Max, who usually we get a comic that's been sent to us and we talk about it, but since Max has finally got the Kickstarter happening on Stellarlands 2, and congratulations, it actually made its target today, or was it last
3 days?
night?
Yes.
Yeah, fantastic. So yeah, for anybody who hasn't subscribed, joined that campaign yet, that'd be me. I'll get around to it. It's up, and it's got another 26 days, another 3 weeks, plus to run. So we want to see $10,000. We want to see all the goals reached. 15 times.
I'd be grateful for any amount, and it's no easy feat. I guess some of our more regular viewers might have been wondering where we've been for the past 4 months. And that I have to take responsibility for all that, because yes, we only reached our goal within 3 days, which seems like a lot, but there is a veritable mountain of work that you have to do to lead up to those 3 days, and that's maintaining visibility, consistent posts, and if you don't draw, you edit videos, which is what I do, and again, that's also time consuming. A lot of guesting and Haley, a lot of guesting on podcasts, which if you're an introvert like me is also not quite easy, but there's a lot of lily pads that you have to jump onto before you suddenly hit land and then hit your goal in what seems to be like a rapid amount of time. But so if any of you are thinking of starting your own campaign, this is my second. I already feel like a veteran. That's how exhausting it is in many ways. But a lot goes into the pre-campaigning before you fire the starter pistol on the actual campaign. And if you've done well, you'll hit your goal in a relatively quick amount of time.
Okay, and the other reason was I wanted my beard to catch up to Shane. So
right.
We just saw a comment there from Lee last night. Sorry, not last night, but we're going to talk about last night very quickly. Lee in Chinwag had one of the best interviews with Nat Carmichael.
Yes.
It was absolutely wonderful. I only stuck in for the first 2 hours and then come back for the last hour this morning, and I thought, oh shit, I missed a lot of good stuff there.
Very insightful.
Yeah, I highly recommend it. Every Tuesday, Lee in Chinwag, he has the best people, and now we kind of not only just artists but people behind the scene as well, and it's such an eye opener, and the wealth of knowledge that some of these older people have is just fantastic. And Lee takes these people down their own little path and lets them their own little talk trail, and they give us some real gems. It's fantastic stuff. So there you go. That's just my little plug for the ComX shows that are on, and don't forget to like and subscribe too.
Took the words right out of my mouth.
We'd like to have more than 50 people look at one stage or another. Now we are going.
We'll take 50 people. We'll take 50 people. We're not too good for 50 people. 50 people is a lot. You can't put 50 people in my apartment,
Yeah, you live in a box. I swear that my study is the same size as your flat there. But then again, you live in Sydney. I'm sorry, Danny.
Yeah. I live alone, and I live near the beach, but that's not saying much because I really don't go out to the beach except to read, which isn't what the beach is for. But yes.
All right, we're going to start this. We've got Shane up the top there. He's running things, but we've asked him to come in because he is actually, of course, the publisher of Stellarlands, and Max being the writer. So if there's anything that's too hard for Max to ask on the technical side, when maybe it comes to the Kickstarter and so forth, he can kick it upstairs to Shane, and Shane might be able to help him with those answers. Now, I'm going to say right now, I have read an advanced copy of Stellarlands 2. We never reviewed Stellarlands 1 on our show last year. And we gave our favourite comic as Dead City Lullabies.
Yes, I believe we were both in accord, right? I know that was
where we were. Now, it was a fantastic sci-fi comic. Because Stellarlands didn't get into it, mainly because of Max's involvement in it, we thought it'd be a bit unfair. But I can tell you now, if Stellarlands had been reviewed on last year, I would have picked it over Dead City Lullabies.
That is a huge compliment. Thank you very much. I love Dead City Lullabies. Yeah, so that's a huge compliment. Yeah.
Well, Dead City Lullabies had a start and then went on, and we have to wait. Whereas with this one, we've been told this is going to be an 8-part, but this was a complete comic with a start, a middle, and an end. It was very satisfying. It's very well made. It's incredibly well written and drawn. Actually, it's a testament to you two guys of how good a production this is. And it was my favourite comic from last year. And I can say that wholeheartedly. I'll get into Max's writing in a minute. But I can tell you, Stellarlands 2, in my opinion, is better. I think
nice.
The way the story's been told, the way it's been presented, and the story itself is wonderful. There is a very emotional impact at the end. I love that. Actually, both Stellarlands 1 and 2 have good emotional impact, but 2 even more so. And I looked at 1 and I looked at 2, and both of them were complete stories. And then I started looking and go, how's he going to join these up? There is no connection between 1 and 2 except for the fact that they were like a space opera. And then I did find a link.
Oh,
very small one, and we'll get into that later. Now, I'm going to ask a question now, Max, since I've sat there and, buttered your bread and made you look good.
I know. Thank you very much. Your check is coming in the mail.
Ask the question here. Now, is it true that Max Ferrada is not your real name? No, we won't go there. We know.
It's modern, yes.
He's in the film industry, so he's got this whole. I don't want people to know who I am because Frederick.
It's more the politics thing, Yeah. I have a politics degree, and yeah.
You are now. You work in film. Now, as a writer of this comic, the way it's been put together, I can see some parallels between actually a movie and actually I'd say a movie, I'll say a TV show because it's only short. So obviously you've been influenced by what you've learned in the industry that you work. Am I right in saying that? Because I really do get that feeling.
Yeah, well, there are certain rules of framing, and at the fore of all of my decisions is emotion. Does this panel contribute to that emotion? Does this line of dialogue, is that more emotional than it is informative? So, and I think that's consideration that all artists have for any time-based medium, music, theater. Is it emotional? So that's I guess that's the king in terms of considerations.
Okay, well, saying that, how much input do you have towards the artist about framing that shot? Because there is a lot of panels in 1 and 2, more so in 2, that have a high emotional impact. That really do draw you in the way that they've been put together in the sequence and so forth. And I'm also probably, I shouldn't do this because it's making 2 questions, but that the first 2 pages of Stellarlands 2 and not something that you expect in a comic.
No.
Yeah, but you could expect it in a movie or a television show. I know that sounds stupid, but the way you've done that, it really sucks you in. You think if people are just looking for action straight off the butt, you're not going to get it. But this was clever, and it drew me in and into the story. And I thought, well, what's happening here? And the payoff is, several pages later, really good, really worth it. And
Thank you.
So, what gave you that idea?
Well, those first 2 pages in particular, that was a direct shot at a publication company that was first considering Stellarlands before I ran into Shane, and their advice. And I'm not coming at this from a sort of malicious way, because they know more than me. They're professors emeritus of their field, and so it might have worked. Which is, if I didn't take their advice, it's not to say that it wouldn't have worked if I did. And what their advice was, they said, this is great, we're interested, but it would be good if you started with a bang, because that's what all comic books do. And this was in relation to Stellarlands 1, because Stellarlands 1, the first page is a panel where government operatives are assessing the mission worthiness of a character. So a lot of, well, not a lot, but like 1 or 2 pages of talking heads. They wanted an action scene at the beginning. And I suppose there's a principle to that. It's something that has worked in the past, and there's no reason to believe why it wouldn't work in the future. I didn't like that. A lot of my philosophy comes from something called anti-drama. I'd like to see how these things play in a grounded way and in real life. And what I did was I tried to make it start the issues to start in the most realistic way possible, where 2 characters are arguing off screen about something that off panel. See, that's the film discipline bleeding through. But 2 people arguing off panel about something that they see on panel, and I believe that's how it would play in real life. And then you work your way up towards the action. And that piece of advice, as well intentioned though it may have been, it didn't sit well with me. So I thought, no, next issue I'm just going to go in the whole other direction and not start with a bang, but start with clumps of sand and speech bubbles. And
no, that's good.
Yeah,
I like the fact that you took control of your own comic and tried to break that set schedule of things that you're supposed to follow. That's good. I also noticed here that both these comics, you have a dedicated editor. That is, like, you often see writer, artist, colorist, letterers, but not editor in a lot of indie comics.
All right.
So,
well,
that role to you?
Well, she's the line editor. Her name is Katrina. She is so easy to work with, very open to multiple drafts. And I would be swimming through a sea of typos were it not for her very perspicacious eye. And that's what she does. I'm sure it's not easy to do. You got to do it more than once. Sometimes things do slip through that Neil Gaiman rule. That once you have something proofed and published and then you buy it off the shelf, if Neil Gaiman opens it up, invariably he'll find a typo. So you try and avoid that as best as you can. And I don't recommend you or your artistic collaborators to attribute yourself the role of editor, because you're too close to it. You can't see the forest for the trees. You're hung up on the bark and the texture of the leaves. You need someone to look at it from a distance. And I cannot recommend enough the services of a line editor. Katrina Reutz actually haven't heard her say her own name, but I do recommend her services greatly, and I have to thank SK the letterer for insisting that I take on a line editor. It makes all the difference, and I do still see typos in comic books, and I don't know how you guys feel about it, but for me, it takes me out of it. Yeah,
I'm big on editors, and I think a lot of comics have suffered, and you and I have actually had that conversation before. We've opened up a lot of new releases, and we go, oh my god, it's usually on the first page, whether it be grammatical. Sometimes it's a silly spelling error, or just someone's left something out, and probably it's just in the rush to get it out. I don't know. To think that their first draft was good enough, nobody could tell them. But I see that there's a lot of care gone into this. It is a real professional operation. Judging by, I'm looking forward to number 3. Here it is, Kickstarter for number 2, because I've already read it. I'm going, come on. Oh, hello.
Hello, Ben. Big fan. I love Gods Among Men and Toby.
Oh yes. Mr. Ben, my favourite artist in Australian artist. He's a man who's really good.
In terms of the professionalism, I have to, tip my cap to the overseer above us right now. I mean, he can. I swear, you should go on the TV show Survivor, because you can like form alliances really quickly. You can get people on your side really quickly, and I this might be a testament to how long he's been around this community, but he was able to assemble a graphic designer, a person who does the proofs, and all of those people like that. Peter Wilson, Chris Kebblewhite, who has the part 2 on PDF right now, and the printers. All of that somehow lines up very neatly and very quickly under the auspices of Shane.
Wow, so comics is
Shane forward.
Yeah, you're growing into this. Who knows? Another 5 years, and you could be the next image. Woohoo! It's all coming. It's all time and learning and everything. But like I keep saying, this is a wonderful product.
Yeah, and I love how it looks. It looks great. Yeah, it came out very well. Yeah.
Okay, now I suppose we're not allowed to give any spoilers away for the comic, for either actually. Besides saying over and over and over again that I think it's better than the first number 2, and number 1 was my comic of choice last year. What else can I say? Now, the 2 stories, it's going to be an 8-story arc.
Yeah, well, yeah. If we get there,
Okay. Well, I've got 2 questions, but the first one is, when are we going to see some linking of the stories? Is that going to come in a lot later? Are you just going to do a lot of setups at first, or?
Well, first things first, you will never see a to be continued at the end of an issue of Stellarlands.
I love that. I love it.
It'll be a satisfying ending, and you'll feel the iterations of an Aristotelian narrative, beginning, middle, end, and sprinkled throughout. You might have seen it, are hints of joining one issue to a previous issue, or to issues that you have yet to see. So that's what's you might not see those connections right now, but I've sprinkled them like sort of breadcrumbs, and if you follow it, I hope that the payoff will be satisfactory. In terms of overt linkings, you'll see it on the 8th issue, right at the very end, when all the main players who have been fleshed out and who you got to know meet in an arena of sorts.
Well, so I really look forward to it. It's probably one of the things that I'm really getting a hunger for. So I don't want to wait another 6 years. So Come on, you people, more Kickstarter money so I can get these things happening faster, because he's already written the bloody 8 stories.
Yeah. I keep joking, like, there's really no rush. It's however quick we get Kickstarter up, or however well we do sales. And I always keep making the joke that maybe we'll come back here in 2087, and
that's not a good joke.
So, I'll come up there and drag you out of bed and make you write it myself. Well, but that is the beauty of it. And I've told you many a time that there is one thing that really is annoying in with Kickstarters, is that to be continued at the end of it. The comic, after you receive it, after waiting all that time, and the campaign period, and then waiting for it to be made and sent out to you, and then you read 22 pages, you go, oh shit, that's all it's going to be there. But these are great because I feel satisfied that I've read 2 complete stories, and the payoff is that they're all going to be linked. They're all going to be something. So that is something wonderful and probably rare these days. I will be honest. Now, the other question I was going to ask is, what was the main influence on this?
Well, creatively speaking, I've always liked the superhero narrative, and I wanted to tell it in a grounded way, in my own certain way. I love shows like The Wire, where a main character in season 1 is probably like a background, walk on in season 2. Yeah, and there's a subtle or a not so subtle networking of intersecting narratives, and that's life sometimes. That is also why From Hell is my favorite comic book. I mean, as you go deep into the details, you'll see this character and that character, and they all have their own respective narratives, and they're all rich. And Alan Moore's dialogue is just so nuanced that it just grasps you and takes you into the pages. I love telling visual stories as well. There is a discipline of framing and sequentialism that is also evident in comics books as with film. Practically speaking, the biggest influence was probably COVID. Was the lockdown. I wasn't making any films in that 3 to 4 month period of 2021 when we were all, we weren't just socially distancing. We were locked down, and I know a lot of people didn't like that. The vast majority of people in this world are ambiverts or extroverts, but I have to say that I feel guilty saying this, but I actually did enjoy lockdown. I liked, doing workouts on television as opposed to the gym. I liked reading books indoors and seeing films that were supposed to be in the cinema get a same day release on Disney Plus and watching it there. And but the only thing I didn't like about it was I couldn't go out and make films. I mean, I had already made a short film through Zoom, but I guess it wasn't enough to satisfy that narrative instinct, and that's why I threw a lot of my body and my soul into researching Stellarlands 1. And and another thing is my love of politics and history. I like the whole phenomenon of holdout soldiers in Japan who went missing from their battalion and are still, if they're still alive, they would be almost 100. They'd be like 97 years old, living in some islands in the Philippines, not knowing that the war had ended. And there was a period in the 60s and 70s that that these holdouts discovered, and like they could still be around. Who knows? Yeah.
Well, that's good. Everything you just said then kind of relates to Stellarlands 1, except for with the Japanese, it's not so much the soldiers, it's their children. And it was great how that pans out. Children believe their own parents' stories and histories, and then the reality is totally different when the world has changed so much around them. But
I do think about that sometimes.
You talked about superheroes before, but these are not really superheroes, but just enhanced humans where they don't really say where the enhancement comes from, and they all seem to be kind of sponsored by large corporations
or the government.
That was the only link I could find in the two comics at this stage. I don't think that's a spoiler, but I think it just
not at all
explains. But there is a lot that isn't explained. The reader has to kind of have faith in the story itself, and I love that, because I did have a complaint when I first read Stellarlands 1, when Anvil, Lisa, or whatever, Daphne, goes to that ice planet, and it's almost like she wakes up and she crashes and she sees these two children. Well, they look like children.
They are teenagers.
Teenagers, and she starts monologuing, and you go, "What? Oh, geez, you've made a mistake." And then there's this little quip by the kids, and you go, and then something happens, a few words are said, and then she goes into monologue again. But that little quip was clever enough to explain what happened the page before. And it also gave you a chance to actually have a monologue, a true monologue, and fill in the story about these teenagers. And what do you call them? A praetor human or predator?
Preternatural. That's
preternatural. And I thought, well, that's a clever storytelling device there. And so I didn't. I kind of had to go back and apologize for that, and then read it through again. And that is the thing about these comics. I've read all of them. Number 1 several times, number 2 3 times, and I read them both again today, because I keep finding little bits and pieces that I missed the first time. So it is like reading a bit like an Alan Moore comic, because yours is from Hell, mine's V for Vendetta.
All right. Yes.
I consider a masterpiece. Just everything about it, the V's, the W's, the 5s, everything. It's such a clever story, and I don't think you're hitting on there. And I'm going to give you credit, and I think that what you're producing here is akin to a masterpiece. You're getting there. You're getting there.
You appreciate. I mean, you have to come into these things with a student mindset, and I'm still learning. I'm learning as I go along, on the job, on the spot. I give Ben, the artist of Stellarlands, a lot of latitude as well.
He's got such a clean style. It's not too busy. It's just clean and well executed. Reminds me of our own Ben Sullivan. I think Ben tends to put a lot more detail in his, but that's similar but different. Both have their own brilliant merits, and I love the fact that no panel seems to be wasted. That's very similar to Ben Sullivan, and there's no such thing as wasting a panel in their comics. And I think you've teamed up with someone who's really doing your words justice here.
Thank you very much.
Pictures justice. It's a good symbiotic bond of it.
Well, there's nothing for me to compare it to, because he is the first artist I've worked with. So feedback like that is very encouraging. It's very enlightening.
I'll tell you right now, I first time I read Stellarlands 1, when I got a copy of it, I told Shane, I said, this is rubbish. I don't get it. It didn't make sense to me. until I think I had a bit of a conversation with him and then with you, and I had to look through it again, and I had to read it again, and there was so much I missed because I just treated it like a comic, da 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 da.
No, yeah, you can't do that. Yeah,
no, it's more involved, and because it's more than that 24 pages,
42. Yeah,
you've got more story to tell. So because it's a double-sized comic, so you've got plenty of time to get all that information in. And
it's not a lot of time. I got to disagree with you there. 42 pages is not a lot. A lot of people have told me that it is, but I still feel constrained. I still feel like there is a handcuff behind my back. But the best way I've heard it described is you have a sandbox. Play in your sandbox. See what you can make within the sandbox.
This is I started off doing 5-page stories. Those tales with a twist stuff. I used to struggle with those. Geez, I find 22 a pain in the butt. But geez, you really go. Oh, there's another thing that I'll ruin for everybody here. There's none of the commercials in the second one.
No, that's not ruining it. So the commercials in the first one, without giving too much spoilers, were tied into the main narrative. Mm-hmm. That's why they were there. It's not a gimmick for the comic book. There's a emotional narrative purpose to it, and that purpose isn't needed in the second book, which is why it's not. Yeah. Don't do things just to do them. As you might be tempted to sometimes, but if it doesn't serve an emotional purposes, then you could use those pages for other things.
I remember when you first started promoting Stellarlands too, and I think the main thing you were concentrating on was one of the characters was blue. But I can see that because with science fiction, having different colored skin, like blue and orange, it's a great way to tell between race and convey different attitudes towards the people on those planets and whatever.
Well, in reality, alien life probably won't be humanoid, which is to say arms, legs, face, which is why in the world building of Stellarlands, I make it a point to mention that we're all descended from the same spacefaring civilization, which accounts for our humanoid appearance. In real life, alien life would probably be pure light, I think, or something like in the movie Arrival, something that we don't recognize as being alive at all. Yes, but, for the purposes of the Stellarlands universe, the humanoid appearance does have its etymology, does have its historical roots.
Speaking of etymology, in number one, you actually have a point where I can't even say their names. What are they? The
kids?
Palathoraxal? Those guys?
Yes.
Yeah, and you actually have them speaking in some weird language, and you don't even bother to put a translation. I thought, oh yeah, that's fair enough. Why bother? They don't know what they're saying, so why should you?
Yeah, the emotion, like I said, the emotion comes first. If you can detect the emotion, the language is just contextual. You just need to know that they're speaking in something that is not human. And sometimes, when you watch films, there are certain portions of it which go untranslated. Apocalypto wasn't translated. I'm there are other examples that are eluding me right now, but some great films just go untranslated, and translating it, or even transliterating it would almost be a disservice.
Okay, and I'll also pick on here. These stories are sad. They're very tragic. I must admit, one more so than two. Two is sad, but then it has a little bit of a twist. But why are you so down? You never come across that way. You seem to be a very upbeat person, but the stories, you're right. They have a high emotional
They're.
there.
I guess they're open-ended as well. I mean, there is the stories might not need it to be continued, but everyone ends things with unresolved emotions because of something that happened, and I think that's life. You can't end things in a nice bow. You can't. Every relationship doesn't have a meaningful ending. It's almost childish to expect everything to have closure, to be neatly compressed and packaged in your memory, to be resurfaced at a whim. That's just life sometimes, and emotions are complicated as well. Yes, on the surface it is sad, but when you look at it, there is, yes, a feeling of inevitability, but there's also growth. There is growth in conflict, and growth in the decisions that you make as well. And some of those decisions are tough. Some of those decisions might not be the right decisions, but that's who we are in the end. Where we are a sum of the very many decisions we have made since birth, and some of those decisions will leave you in tears.
All right. Well, I'm going to finish up soon, but we're going to go to the Kickstarter. Congratulations on meeting it, your target, and I do hope you go a lot further. I do like. I don't know, a lot of people are going to hate me for this, but with your variant covers, you've used the same artist. You've used the artist from inside. You just didn't.
Oh no! That is incorrect. The variant covers were from another artist called Dino.
I'm having a look. Oh, sorry. I thought they were all by Ben Worrell.
No. Ben Worrell does the main covers, and I love those covers. But Dino was.
Dino Agor. Sorry, my apologies. Geez, didn't. Yeah, shitty research there, but it's very similar. Very similar in the style and the colors.
Yeah, I use the same colorist.
Okay.
Yeah, Wilson Go, and that's a huge compliment to Dino Agor's adaptability. He's able to work off other people's designs and meet expectations. Working with him was also very easy. That's a running theme throughout all the people within the pages of Stellarlands. They're all very easy to work with. It's I try to blur the difference between the horizon and the sky, if that makes sense. I'd like us all to blur into one almost disembodied form and make a comic. And I guess your observation has met that. Yeah.
So okay, we've got Dino Agor.
Reminders.
Australian published comic. How international is this comic in the crew, including Dino?
Okay, Dino and Wilson are from Philippines, as am I. So there's always that simpatico there. SK, who is credited as a letter, but he's so much more. He's the oracle and the guru who guides a light through the dark caves of the indie comic book scene. He lives right there. He's very, very close to me in the northern reaches. He's I think he's Chinese Indonesian, but he's Australian. Ben and Katrina, the line editor and the artist, are from America, all over America. They like the convention hop, I suppose is the term for it. And the logo designer, Amalia Garcia, she's from Argentina. And and as far as I know, the ComX crew, they're all from Australia. Peter, Chris.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
ComX. Yeah.
Wow, that's quite a posse you got, an international posse for a first comic. How did you bring all these people together?
Well, it started in a Facebook group called, which is curated by SK. The thing is, if you're a paying writer and you put up an ad for an artist, it's just it's an embarrassment of riches, which is both a glorious advantage, but very sad. If you put up an ad, your DMs will be flooded. You'll get hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands, of applications of artists looking for work as a result of wanting to challenge themselves, but also, talent is always hungry, even though they're well fed. Talent recognizes talent and they want to improve. Ben was the first person right on top of my DMs. He was the first person to apply. I should have just hired him then and there. It would have saved me like 3 months of looking, but I had thousands of applications and portfolios that I needed to go through. So I needed to do my due diligence. But in the end, it was thank you, Ian. In the end, it was he was the first person who applied, and from there, through SK, I was able to meet Dino and Wilson and Amalia and Katrina, and through Shane, I was able to meet Peter and Chris and all the other people who had immense contributions to the realization of the physical copy of Stellarlands. And Shane, I think I just sent Shane an email, I believe, or maybe Shane sent me an email, something along those lines.
Well, I'm glad it did come together like that, because the finished product is fantastic, and I hope that what we've done tonight, if you get some more subscribers, I think we've done our job well.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Yeah.
There's another comic royalty. Ian's been in the scene for 30, 40 years. He was doing comics with Dylan Naylor, back in the 80s, late 80s, early 90s. So
Dylan, that's Toby, right? Yeah.
Good guys, actually. I think Ian was.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, how's that? We've had Lee, we've had Ian, we've had Ben Sullivan. So that's good. Yeah. I like this live thing. We don't get annoyed by only by important people. That's great. So on that note, thank you for your time, Max, and I'm glad that the Kickstarter is going so well, and I hope it goes better.
Yeah, thank you very much,
Shane, for organising this.
And if I can just have just interject quickly at the end, if you guys are, if there's anybody out there who is thinking about starting a Kickstarter campaign, these podcasts like this are vital. They're like oases in the desert, because there's something called the valley which comes at the end of the first week and before the final 48 hours of a Kickstarter, where the pledges just drop. But I find that whenever I guest on a podcast like this, there's a sort of spike.
People get to see you who wouldn't have seen you otherwise.
Yes, it stimulates pledges more than posts, more than videos. So get on as many podcasts as possible. Shane, you're doing an incredible service by making these podcasts available. And if there's anybody thinking of starting a podcast, do it as well, because you'll definitely be enriching the pool of talent out there. And we need them. We need each other. Symbiosis.
Yes.
And it helps that the comic that is being promoted is definitely worth it.
Thank you. Of course. I appreciate that.
Okay. On that note, I think we can all say good night. Thank you once again.
Thank you very much, guys. Night all.
Good night.
Cheers.